Okay, now, we've talked about empowering leaders and we've talked about, really effective leadership and stuff. Let's don't lose sight that we still have to manage performance. We do. We have to manage performance. We have to set performance expectations and we have to manage to them. So that doesn't go away. Managing to expectations, really effectively doing it, is a huge component of leadership. It's not the anti-leader because I'm managing them. It actually makes me more effective as a leader if I get really good at both setting and managing to expectations. In managing performance, there's some things we need to remember. The key is why. Why? Why are we managing performance? Well, it's because performance, like it or not, and not always through intentional or purposeful actions by people, but frequently the performance doesn't quite meet the expectations. Sometimes it's the expectations are known and other times not so much. There are three, let's call them attitudes of an organization. So three attitudes of an organization. Now down here at the beginning, we have chaos. We have people going in all sorts of different directions. There's non-compliance. They're not really paying attention to procedures, to policies, to indirect sort of suggestions. They're not paying much attention to any of that. They're not necessarily intentionally malingering. They're just not focused. For a lot of reasons, they're just not focused. What we do, one of the things that we do by managing performance expectations is one of the first things we do is we stop that. We at least get everybody focused, pointed straight. This is chaos. Looks like it, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like chaos? So this is chaos. Now, if we can take them and if we can help them get somewhere like here. So now I'm going through the center here and I'm really focused. I'm going straight. We do this because now they're compliant. I don't mean blind obedient. I mean, we have policies, we have procedures, we have methods, we have expectations, and they're clear and people are following them. You tell me what to do, boss. Give me direction. I'm on the way. And they're doing them. And so everybody's kind of on the straight and narrow. Straight and narrow is good. It's not like high performing stuff, but it's good. So we'll call this stability. It's a stable attitude of an organization. It's a good place to have, and frankly, it's a foundation. We can't go above it until we get there. So it's as necessary, as rain is for grass to grow. We must have stability, and we get that largely through compliance. Now, we have this upper area up here, obviously because I'm going to use it. Now take these. Now we got them all marching correctly, but let's use this kind of analogy here. If I've got 6 arrows drawn here, if I want 12 to go through here, well, 6 got to go, and then 6 got to go, and then 6 got to go. Well, what if I could have all 12 going at the same time? How cool would that be? Now, this is beyond compliance, clearly, right? And this is definitely beyond compliance. This isn't stable. This is called high performance. This is an organization that is performing at a very high level. It's gone past compliance, and it's not merely complying. We're reaching what's called discretionary effort. People are going beyond what's required of them for any job and doing those things that they can do because they believe that's what's right. So they're doing more than what our minimum expectations are. Good deal, right? This is a good deal. I drew the little model, right, of the attitudes of an organization. We had chaos. Chaos led to stability. Stability led to high performing. Well, chaos to stability, of course, is probably the most critical step. And we get there, actually it's fairly simple. We get there by establishing what we call non-negotiables. Now, when I say non-negotiable, sometimes it's easy to go in your head to say, okay, so non-negotiable means if you don't do that, Kevin, I'm going to fire you. No, but it does mean that I can't let it pass. So if I establish a non-negotiable, and I'll explain just a second, but if I establish a non-negotiable, it means if that performance expectation isn't met, you and I are going to have a chat. We're going to talk. Now, I define a non-negotiable to give you, it's pretty much what you think it is. A non-negotiable in performance expectations are the conditions or expectations set by management that kind of form the foundation, if you will, of our entire employment condition. These are the thou shalt nots, or thou shalt. These are absolutes. They're non-negotiables. Okay? Again, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to whack somebody tomorrow if they don't do it, but it does mean that we're probably going to address it. So it's key. Now, there are categories of non-negotiables. Categories include compliance. We mentioned that's what kind of drove everybody into that model, remember, where we went from chaos to stability. So compliance with policies and procedures is the first category, if you will, of a non-compliance. Very important, very important. The second are non-negotiables that deal with interpersonal behavior and conduct. We want people to behave correctly. We don't want people to fight. We don't want people to unlawfully harass. We don't want those sorts of things. So conduct, behavior, those are another kind of category of non-negotiables. And the final category, it almost sounds like it's something we don't even need to say, but we do. Those are the minimum performance expectations. So the minimum performance expectations to keep your job are non-negotiables that your manager has established for you. Make sense? Now, people may do more than that, and that's great, but the minimum requirement to keep your job. So we established non-negotiables, right? And we told them what they were. You know, how cool is that? We actually tell people what the specific expectations are for each category of non-negotiable. And yet, someone still doesn't do it. Something still isn't done quite correctly, or is done that shouldn't be done. So we have someone who's outside of our expectations. What do we do? Well, I'll tell you what we do. It's called harnessing harmful behavior. Now, the behavior itself, the either behavior or action or inaction that took them outside our non-negotiable is what's at issue here. That's the harmful behavior. We need to harness that. We need to grab hold of it and help someone get past it. We're going to have a conversation with them. Now, the first part of the conversation you've had for 15 years or more, you know, so you know how to do that part. It's when we tell them, here are the expectations. Here's what you did. There's a gap. I don't want this gap. We need to close this gap. So that's the easy part. You did something you shouldn't have done, or you didn't do what you should have done. That's the easy part. The new part I want you to think about is after we do that, we're going to elicit a promise to improve, elicit a commitment, if you will, to improve from the employee with whom we're having the conversation. Now, folks, this is key. This is a big deal. This is probably one of the biggest foot stompers that we cover throughout this stuff, because this is different. This is not typical stuff that you've seen and read before. It's different, and I'll tell you why. Typically, someone didn't do what they're supposed to do. The typical leader chews their butt. It's what we do, right? Do what you say you're going to do, or I'm going to jump both feet into your rear end. I'm going to chew you out. Well, okay. Now, if I come back 3 weeks from now and you still haven't done it, what am I going to do? Assuming I'm not going to fire you. I'm going to chew your butt again. And you're going to hang your head. Okay, all right, you're right, boss, I didn't do it. But it's still not done. And I still don't have a big stake in it because frankly, you know, I didn't really do anything major. You're the one who's getting all excited. You keep chewing my butt. Now, if I elicit a commitment to improve, if I say, okay, Frank, you knew you weren't supposed to do that, right? Right. You knew our start time was at 9 o'clock, right? Right. Great. And you showed up at 9:30, right? Right. Frank, I got to know, bud. I mean, before we can really go forward, I need to hear it from you. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do? What are you going to tell me? That's right. You're going to tell me something like, I won't do it again, right? And you're going to tell me that, and people say, well, what if they don't? Well, they will. They want out of the conversation as much as you do. So they will. They will. Frank will tell me, you know, yes, I'll commit to not doing it anymore. I won't do it again. I'll be on time. And I'll say, great, thank you very much. Conversation over. You know, let's go get a cup of coffee. Now 3 weeks pass. Frank comes in late again. Yeah, Frank comes in late again. What do we do? Well, I sit down with Frank again. I remind Frank of the performance expectation. I remind him of his lack of attaining that performance expectation. Frank, you're late again. And you know what I say then? Instead of just chewing his butt, I say, Frank, kind of surprised. Last time we met, you promised me, you personally promised me you wouldn't do this again. What happened? Now, what have I done? I brought Frank into the game. Frank's got skin in the game now. I have called Frank's personal integrity into question because he promised me, and I'm calling him on that promise. It's not me just chewing his butt. I'm bringing his personal integrity into question because he told me it wouldn't happen again, and it has. Frank's squirming a little bit more in his chair, both literally and in my story. He's squirming a little bit more in his chair. That's as it should be. It ought to be uncomfortable when you don't meet performance expectations. We need to do a better job of making it uncomfortable when employees don't meet performance expectations. So harnessing harmful behavior, I'm going to have the conversation, and at the end of that conversation, I'm going to elicit a commitment to improve. That's the different part. That's the part that really makes a difference in succeeding.